Welcome to Talent Buzz, where I talk with SaaS companies on how they are doing talent acquisition. On today's episodes, I'm talking with Aku, founder of Aatos.app, on how they scaled their team to 20 people and what they learned on the way when hiring the best possible talent for Aatos. We start today's episode from the beginning. They were actually working on their tool as a side hustle for 2 years before hopping into the full time. So let's start by asking Aku, what made them hop full time for the business?
Yeah, basically, I think it all results from where we actually started. So at the very beginning, it was just me and three of my friends kind of got tired of work life, or if not tired, at least kind of felt like, is this it? Like, is there anything more we could do? So we founded the company first, and then we didn't even have any business idea or anything. We just felt like we have a competent group of people that could build many things, and then we pondered on different ideas for a while, maybe a few weeks, and then this idea of this legal tech startup kind of was the most intriguing for us, and there were still like many question marks on this topic. Like, is it actually possible? Can we do it? Can we automate something that has been kind of traditionally very expertise job, very job that requires the professional to be there, and for that reason we wanted to try it out. So we built our first service, we put it out. We had no idea if anybody wanted it. We didn't understand if it could actually work. So for the first 2 years, as you said, we then basically worked part-time on this idea. We developed new products to the platform and kind of prototyped and built the proof of concept that this works. And the turning point for us, like when we then eventually jumped full time, was actually when we understood that this business case is a solid one. This is a area where you can have a business on, but we just need to develop it a little bit further. So we need to have this more platform like mentality, and we wanted to also kind of spin the brand around and build something bigger. And we built a kind of a plan for Aatos, and then based on the proof of concept that we had for the past 2 years, we were able to raise the first funding round, and with the funding round we were able to also jump full time on the idea. So we were kind of a little bit different than many startups. I think there's at least this kind of an idea that when you're a startup founder, you need to jump full time from the beginning. You have to be fully invested, take the risk on the day one. And I think at least for us, it was kind of the opposite. We felt like we want to iterate the idea first, and then when we feel like we have actually found something that we feel like investing our time, we did it. So that's why.
Yeah, I actually agree on that one. For example, if I think about talent being kind of how we founded the company, we planned things for, I think, 8 months before kind of launching the company, and we used to work in our day jobs in the same time. Did a few pilot projects, built some processes, built some kind of brand and hype around the company, and then kind of when you launch it, it was kind of easy because you have those kind of cash flows coming in straight from the day number one, and then there isn't that big of a risk. So I really like that approach. From the founders you had, I feel like there's a lot of SaaS companies where the founders are either kind of super technical or kind of super commercial ones. So kind of from your founders, were you all the other side, or did you have a combination of kind of technical founders and more commercial founders?
Well, of course, like we were 4 founders, so that at least brings the opportunity to kind of have broad talent set as well, or skill set, and with us, we were kind of tech focused in many ways. We had two developers and then one lawyer who actually also had some development experience. So that kind of makes us lean a little bit to the tech side. But then again, like besides the lawyer, I'm also one of the non-technical founders, having fully just business background. I have worked for the past 8 years before Aatos even purely in tech. So I also do have some connections to tech, but I think we had quite diverse skill set from the beginning, and it was one of the benefits we had. So we could be very hands-on on many things, and could actually and still can execute a lot of stuff with the like the initial core team as well.
Yeah, sounds like a good combination. When was the moment you realized that, hey, now we need to hire our first employee? What was the time, and how did you realize that?
Well, basics for us, it was a little bit different. I think that many startups think and startup founders think that the kind of the number of employees, this is the metric of success, and the more people you hire, the more successful you are, and everybody has this great mentality that, hey, to have a big company you need to have hundreds of people working there. And for us from the beginning, we wanted to be very efficient, so everything was automating what professionals already are doing, and then actually realizing that we need to hire somebody was more when we understood and we had some obstacle that we didn't have skills to fix. So in our case, it was trying our wings abroad. So opening our Swedish operations. We didn't understand the Swedish law. We didn't know the language properly. We didn't know the market. So it was obvious that we do need to hire someone, and we're not just looking extra pair of hands, but we're looking for someone who is bringing competence to the team that we don't have.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier when we kind of prepare for these episodes that equity isn't salary, and I think kind of a lot of SaaS founders out there are kind of trying to bring people in by offering some kind of equity for them. Of course, kind of if you have raised round of funding, it is easier to kind of pay kind of market salary for people. But can you share a bit more about kind of that thought?
I think kind of the equity part works very well for very early startups. Like when you only have the idea, you don't have a business case, you don't have any revenue, you don't really have money to pay the salaries. But after you do, I think it's a very easy way to kind of hit yourself in the foot to offer equity instead of like proper salaries. And why I think so is that I think salary has like two very core benefits and core meanings, and one of them is actually communicate as a company how much you value that person. I think that's a kind of a very easy way to communicate the value and communicate it over time. So salary is something you can always keep up to date, and that way kind of prove your value, how much you value the person. And then the second, even more important part is that I would want our employees to be fully focused on doing excellent job. And to be able to do that, you have to have the least amount of other external stressors. So basically, if you're coming to work stressed about your personal life, stressed about your bill, stressed about, oh, I would want to go on a holiday, but I don't have any money, that will eventually make them less efficient at work and too focused on these little problems that they have. So equity is very good to get people committed to your company in the long term, and also kind of spread the rewards, but at the same time you're spreading risk, and people, not everybody works well under pressure and under risk. So I think by paying people at least what they're worth gives them more freedom to do a better job.
Yeah, agree on that one. Do you still have some kind of option program for your employees currently?
Yes. So basically, every employee we have, all of them own part of the company. So that is still important to us as well. But that doesn't kind of cover the salary. So that's just an extra. That's the way we make them feel that they are part of the company, make them feel that their presence and their ideas matter. And the better we do, they can also benefit from it in the future.
Yeah. Has it been challenging? You're now four founders, as you mentioned. I'm actually doing an episode with founder of Svarmia, Otto, next week. And for example, in Svarmia's case, Otto is actually the only founder. And one of the benefits he has noticed from that one is that it's been kind of easier to give kind of proper equity for the employees. But now, when you are kind of only four people, has it been challenging for you kind of give that equity out?
Yeah, there might be something there. Like I understand where Otto is coming from. Obviously, you have more room to give equity. Of course, that being said, we still kind of we didn't need to hire people that fast because we had the core team already there, and still all of our founders are fully operationally like committed to what we do. So I think like they are kind of still contributing to everything we do so much that I think there's like benefits to both. And what it actually boils down into is that no matter if you start alone or you start as a team, you still need that core team. Like you still need to give that equity to someone. You still need those 10, 20 first key employees, and you need to select them well, and you need to make them committed and so on.
Yeah, agree on that one. In the beginning, kind of when building the kind of core team, there isn't room for kind of free riders, and you kind of really want to build the best possible team, hire the best possible people. Can you share a bit more? Kind of how do you validate candidates? How do you make sure that you get the best possible talent to join your team?
Well, that's of course, I have to say, is one of the most difficult tasks. Like I think every startup founder and team has. For us, we can basically start from what I mentioned earlier, that we only hire when we need some competence that we don't have, and I think that's a very good starting point and should be kind of the framework within which you always compare the candidates to. So you have to kind of see that that person would bring something that you don't currently have, and you need to basically, what everybody always says, like hire somebody who's better than you, but it may not be so simple and easy to see every time. But what is easy to see is that, is this person actually delivering something that I cannot do, or we as a team cannot do? So at least for us, like always remembering we're not hiring extra pair of hands, we're hiring the talent. Then again, kind of being very open about our company, the expectations we have, the quality of the other team, the existing team already, what is the quality of that team, and then kind of being very straightforward that, hey, this is what we would expect from you. Do you think you can deliver? And then have open discussions. And then some small things like we don't really use much like ready set questions to our interviews, but rather try to tailor them to each candidate. Of course, we talk about the same themes, the things that we need to figure out, but we try to understand what are the kind of pros and cons of this specific candidate, and try to deep dive into that person and understand how would they fit the team and what would be the actual value, not just like qualifying that person against the other candidates, but actually trying to find out if they bring value to our team. And if they don't bring enough value and we cannot find a person that can, then it's maybe not time to recruit someone. So rather not recruit than hire somebody that isn't actually 100% valuable at this time.
Yeah, it's always kind of hard to make that decision that, hey, let's not hire anyone when your team members are kind of fully booked and you really would need someone. But still, I believe it's better to wait for a month or two rather than kind of bring in the wrong person, because that can affect on things very very.
Absolutely. I think the biggest thing is that how we understood it is that especially like in a case like ours, we do something that is not like so typical. We cannot hire people that have done this before. So we can hire very talented developers. We can hire very talented lawyers, customer service, whatever we may need. But the actual training period is still quite intensive. So it takes a lot of effort from the existing team and kind of understanding and learning how much time it takes. Really emphasizes the fact that we need to really be fully on board on the recruitment to be ready to make the investment in time.
Yeah, exactly. Regarding the investment, I remember when I did my first hires, and it was super surprising for me, like how much time does one recruitment take? And I feel like that's the situation basically with everyone when they start to do more and more recruitments. And I know that was the case with you as well. Kind of a little bit surprising, like, hey, this really takes time. But what were the kind of parts that were surprising for you? Like, hey, well, this part takes really much time, or was there time where you gonna notice that, hey, I'm wasting super much of time for example, this particular part of the recruitment process?
Basically, I think two things. Firstly, the planning. Like you cannot just like put an ad out and then go to the interview, but you need to have a plan how you approach this recruitment. You need to understand who you are actually recruiting and what is the position that you're actually trying to fill, not just like the job ad, but like on a broader terms, like what are you looking for? Then you need to prepare for each interview, and you kind of need to be up to date with the process all the time. So it's sometimes it actually takes like real time, but also what it takes a lot is kind of your focus. So you need to be kind of it's usually a process of several weeks, even sometimes months, and during that time, it's going to require quite a lot of focus from you. And I think that kind of was a little bit surprising to us as well. Like I think we did know that it will take time and it's going to be difficult, but how much energy it's also going to consume was a little bit surprising.
Yeah, yeah. Has it been kind of now? If you think about, you'll be making a lot of hires, but for example, if you think about the differences when making, let's say, the first or second hire, and now, for example, the latest hire you have done, kind of have you learned a lot about kind of recruitment, and have you kind of been able to streamline the process, and nowadays it's kind of easier to make those decisions?
Yeah, I think we have learned a lot. I think we have become way how would I put it nicely, stricter in like what is the required level. Not because we have done poor hires. I think quite the opposite. Like we've seen that the people we found are very good, but like we have also understood how lucky we've been to actually land on them. So we cannot like take all the credit of the great team we built, but I think there's also a lot of luck and kind of word to mouth and connections that we've used, which have to be contributed the credit as well. So I think we have, in that sense, like become way more efficient. We have more processes in place. Of course, these are something that you even cannot have and shouldn't have when you are hiring your first people. But also, like I think the practice has changed a little bit in the other way, that when we are hiring the first person or the first persons, we're looking for very talented people who are also kind of generalists. So people that can do more than would be asked for from maybe the 18th or the 19th or the 20th employee. And I'm not talking that they are doing more, but they have interest and skills and vision to work on a broader field, because the further you get, the more specialized jobs you're looking to fill. And when you're at the very beginning, you're usually looking to expand your core team with people who are ready to do what it takes, whatever the task is ahead of you.
Yeah. But one thing that I've noticed that is kind of changing while a SaaS company is growing are kind of the people who are participating in the recruitment process from the kind of company's end. And typically, of course, kind of during the first recruitments, founders want to be involved. So the question regarding on that one, kind of, are you personally still involved in all the recruitments? And then kind of, if yes, when do you see that kind of you would stop using time for that one and kind of let others handle the recruitment without participating to that?
I would say I'm still heavily involved in all the recruitment processes we have. At this time, I would say it's only at some point that I am, so it's not all the time. But so I usually attend to at least one interview each time, and I still think that it's a very important role for me to have in general, because I think the role of a CEO is actually to hire the best team and make them work the best they can. So by kind of being the enabler, being the person that makes their job easier, and for that reason, I don't necessarily even see if I have more important role than to kind of affect how the team works and who is included in the team.
Interesting. I just had a chat with founder of Vainu, Mikko, about that one, and Mikko also shared that he participated in some recruitment process. Still, I think there are now 130 people. But what Mikko shared was actually that Mikko is not participating kind of in the validation like at all, but lets kind of team leads and those people make the decision. But the role is actually more about kind of providing all the necessary information for the candidate and kind of show the candidate that, hey, you are important for us, and kind of it kind of turned from validation to actually selling, because I think that is something you really need to do nowadays as well, because there is kind of big competition on the best talents in the market.
Yeah, that's actually, I think, very good observation, and that is, I think, already true in our case with around 20 employees, that at the end of the day, it's still always the hiring manager who makes the call. And mainly my role usually is to kind of try to tell about our company and try to kind of, as you told, sell us. But I think in this case, like, selling is not always just about trying to present the best side of our company, but also being straightforward and kind of trying to build a rapport with the candidates, and kind of trying to see if our company and the culture are really a fit. So I think obviously, like, on the kind of team lead level, everybody is still like very focused in finding a person that would complement their team, but also they have the other requirements that they need to fill. So the talent requirements, and then I think me being involved and discussing more about the kind of the vision fit, and not so much kind of being trying to qualify the candidate, but trying to be honest to them and trying to kind of have an open discussion brings them the most value.
Yeah, I agree. That kind of being transparent and talking about those hard things is important as well. We actually had a chat with one potential candidate to join our team yesterday. She's in a final stage, and I had that chat with our co-founder Saara, And Sara was kind of doing this kind of selling, like, hey, why you should join our team, what things you could learn. And then in the end of that one, Sara said that, hey, I feel like I'm selling too much, and asked me that, hey, Samuli, can you scare the candidate a bit? Like, can you share the bad stuff about our company, the hard stuff? And I think it's important to do that one as well, because like no one wins if someone joins your company and then the kind of day-to-day life isn't what you kind of shared them with. And I think this is important for both big companies and small companies. But for example, in this case, that person has mostly been working in the bigger companies, and we are a startup. So kind of really sharing super openly, like the bad things about startup, the kind of real life, what it will be, things changing all the time, all that. So I think super good point on being transparent.
Yeah, and I think like in these cases, like when you're hiring as a startup or a small company, it's also like if you have the right candidate, it's usually like the things that can be considered kind of the cons actually become positives, because if it's the right candidate, they are inspired by obstacles and problems and kind of challenges, and very inspired by the autonomy that you can provide. When some candidates can be afraid of not getting as much support as you get in the organization where you have like tens of colleagues working with you all the time. So I think it's just like being transparent brings out the real nature of the job, and then you also find the people who get inspired and motivated by that kind of job.
Yeah. Speaking of transparency, what has been your biggest fuck up kind of regarding people things, recruitment things during your kind of, it's now like 5 years from the 2018?
Yeah. To be honest, I think I need to be a little bit boring here. And I don't have like a one single fuck up, and maybe that's that has been our biggest challenge. To be honest, like we haven't fucked up in those words at all. Like I actually had it's a few months now, but it kind of stuck to me. A chat with another startup founder, and we talked about recruitment, and then. I hadn't really thought about it that much before. Like we've always been quite demanding, but at the same time, like felt like it's going quite easily. Like we tend to find the candidates quite easily. And then we had a chat with another founder, and she told me that actually it is not that easy for them, at least. Like they've had to let many people go. They've been struggling with this team a lot, and then it kind of struck me that we've been very lucky with many of these things. We used a lot of connections, but at some point the connections will run out, and then we have to make sure that we've actually learned something. So it's very very big kind of a challenge, that if we don't understand that we've done very well, and we don't kind of learn from the recruitments we've done, we would fuck up in the future. So that's why I think since then, and looking back from when I learned this, I think we've focused way more on learning what we're actually doing, and that way, kind of, I think our mindset about recruiting has actually developed quite a lot during this year, for example.
Yeah. I would say you have kind of clearly done some things right there, because kind of I think it's very, very typical to have a lot of challenges in the kind of recruitment and people side of things. If you should kind of give one tip for a kind of fellow founder, let's say that they would have five people right now and they are scaling kind of towards 20 people, like what would be the one tip, one learning that you have had during the years?
There's quite a few, but I think like maybe hire only when you need to, like hire to the need, not because you want to show that you can hire, not because you have a possibility to hire, but rather like for example, us, I think we always first have looked into how can we develop our tech to not hire people. And then when we need talent, we have hired people. So kind of being very conservative in hiring. And I'm quite sure that there are many people that would disagree with me. But when it comes to startup, I think startups, it's kind of a lot about turning investment into fast growth. And you can spend a lot of energy and time in recruitment, but I think spending that time in recruitment, rather hiring the right talent and spending more time on recruiting the very talented, good individuals is way more valuable than spending that time and spreading it around, spreading it to hiring 5 kind of mediocre candidates. So kind of being specialized in this area rather than just doing it for the sake of it.
Yeah, I think that's a good tip for kind of this moment. If we look at kind of what is happening on the investment market, and kind of a lot of investors talking about kind of profitability over growth. So I think this is something that will be changing actually a lot in the upcoming years. So rather than bringing in more people, growing that headcount, kind of really thinking about how to make the business growth profitable, how to make sure that you don't do hires that you don't need at that stage, really hire for the need.
Yeah, and I think in that case also like companies like yours come to play a lot, because I think many startups usually use they get some help to recruitment a little bit further in the down the road. But I think if you really want to focus on it and want to do great hires, you should get all the need you can get and all the need you feel like all the help you feel like you need as early as possible, rather than spending the money in hiring 10 people. Maybe you spend the money to hire 5 excellent people.
And that's a wrap for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. Hopefully you got a lot of good ideas about SaaS talent acquisition. If you enjoyed the episode, feel free to share it on your social so others can hear it too. And if you have a topic in mind that you would like me to cover in this podcast, share it with me as well. I'm Samuli, CEO and co-founder in TalentBee, where we help fast-growing SaaS companies in their talent acquisition. Make sure to follow us, make sure to follow this podcast, and have an awesome week. Bye-bye.